You wake up after a full night's sleep, but somehow you still feel exhausted. Your coffee doesn't help anymore. By mid-afternoon, you're struggling to keep your eyes open. And the strangest part, you can't remember the last time you felt truly energized. If you're over 60 and this sounds familiar, I need you to know something important. You're not imagining this. This isn't just getting older, and most critically, this isn't something you have to accept as your new normal. I'm going to explain exactly what's happening inside your body right now, why this relentless fatigue has taken over your life, and what we can actually do about it. Because here's what most doctors won't tell you in a rushed 10-minute appointment. The tiredness you're experiencing isn't one simple problem. It's a cascade of interconnected changes happening at the cellular level, in your hormones, in your blood, and in systems you didn't even know controlled your energy. So let's talk about what's really going on. The mitochondrial crisis. First, I need to take you inside your cells, because this is where your energy story actually begins. Every single cell in your body contains these tiny structures called mitochondria. Think of them as microscopic power plants. Their only job is to take the food you eat, the oxygen you breathe, and convert all of that into a molecule called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is your body's actual energy currency. Everything you do, from blinking to thinking to walking across a room, requires ATP. Now here's the problem. When you were younger, your cells were packed with healthy, efficient mitochondria. A typical cell might have had anywhere from hundreds to thousands of these little power plants, all working at peak capacity. But after 60, something changes. Your mitochondria start to decline, not just in number, but in quality. The DNA inside your mitochondria, yes, they have their own separate DNA, begins accumulating damage from decades of oxidative stress. Every time your mitochondria produce energy, they also produce free radicals as a byproduct, kind of like how a car engine produces exhaust. Over 60 years, that damage adds up. Studies show that mitochondrial function can decline by 30 to 50% as we age. That means your cells are literally producing 30 to 50% less energy than they used to. You're running on half power, and you feel every bit of it. But it gets more complex. Your body has this quality control system called mitophagy. It's like a recycling program where old, damaged mitochondria get broken down and cleared away. When you're young, this system works beautifully. Damaged mitochondria get removed. Healthy ones multiply to replace them. But after 60, mitophagy becomes sluggish. Those damaged mitochondria don't get cleared out efficiently. They accumulate, and these dysfunctional mitochondria, they're not just producing less energy, they're actually producing more inflammatory signals. This is why you might feel tired, even after you've rested. Your cells are working harder just to produce the baseline energy you need to function, and they're doing it with damaged equipment, the hormone collapse. Now let's talk about something that almost everyone overlooks when it comes to fatigue: your hormones. And I don't just mean testosterone or estrogen, though those matter too. I'm talking about your entire endocrine system, which is this intricate network of glands and chemical messengers that regulate virtually everything in your body, including your energy levels. Let's start with your thyroid. This butterfly-shaped gland in your neck produces hormones that literally set your metabolic rate, the speed at which your body converts fuel into energy. After 60, thyroid function commonly decreases. You might develop subclinical hypothyroidism, where your thyroid hormone levels are just slightly low, not low enough for most doctors to treat, but definitely low enough for you to feel exhausted, cold, mentally foggy and unmotivated. The tricky part is that standard thyroid tests often miss this. Your TSH might look normal, but your free T3, the active form of thyroid hormone that actually gets into your cells, might be suboptimal, and nobody checks that unless you specifically ask. Then there's cortisol, your stress hormone. When you're younger, cortisol follows this beautiful rhythm. It peaks in the morning to wake you up, then gradually declines throughout the day so you can sleep at night. But chronic stress, and let's be honest, by 60, most people have experienced decades of various stresses. Chronic stress disrupts this rhythm. You end up with what we call HPA axis dysfunction. That's your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. What this looks like in real life: you wake up tired because your morning cortisol peak is blunted. Then maybe you get a surge of cortisol at night when it should be low, so you're tired but wired, unable to fall asleep. Your body's lost its natural rhythm, and cortisol doesn't just control your sleep-wake cycle, it affects your blood sugar, your inflammation levels, your immune function, everything. For women, the decline in estrogen after menopause has profound effects on energy. Estrogen helps your brain produce serotonin, which affects mood and energy. It protects your mitochondria. It helps regulate body temperature. When estrogen drops, many women experience crushing fatigue, along with hot flashes, night sweats that destroy sleep quality, mood changes, and this sense of just not feeling like themselves anymore. For men, testosterone decline, sometimes called andropause, leads to fatigue, decreased motivation, loss of muscle mass, which further decreases metabolic rate, and often depression. Testosterone isn't just about libido. It's crucial for energy, for building muscle, for mental sharpness. And here's something most people don't realize. All of these hormones talk to each other. They're interconnected. When one goes down, it affects the others. Low thyroid slows everything down. Low cortisol means you can't respond to stress. Low sex hormones affect your mood, your metabolism, your sleep. It's not one thing, it's a cascade. The blood deficiency. Now I want to talk about what's flowing through your veins, because your blood work might be hiding the real reason you're exhausted. Let's start with iron. Iron is absolutely essential for energy because it's a key component of hemoglobin, the protein in your red blood cells that carries oxygen. Without adequate iron, your tissues don't get enough oxygen, and you feel profoundly tired. After 60, iron deficiency becomes more common, not always because of diet, but because of subtle internal bleeding from medications like aspirin or NSAIDs, from stomach issues, from reduced absorption in the gut. But here's the problem. Standard iron tests often miss this. Your doctor checks your hemoglobin, sees it's normal, and tells you you're fine. But they don't check your ferritin, which measures your iron stores. You can have normal hemoglobin, but depleted iron stores, and you'll feel exhausted. Optimal ferritin for energy is generally between 70 and 100. Many people are walking around with ferritin in the 20s or 30s, technically normal, but feeling terrible. Vitamin B12 is another critical one. B12 is essential for energy production, for nerve function, for making red blood cells. After 60, B12 deficiency becomes incredibly common because your stomach produces less acid and you need stomach acid to absorb B12 from food. You might be eating plenty of B12, but you're not absorbing it. The symptoms of B12 deficiency are insidious. Fatigue, brain fog, memory problems, numbness or tingling in your hand and feet. Balance issues, mood changes, and again, standard tests miss this. Doctors check total B12, see it's above 200, and say you're fine. But optimal B12 for energy and brain function is above 500, ideally above 700, and there are more sensitive markers like methylmalic acid and homocysteine that can detect functional B12 deficiency that standard tests miss. Vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, not a vitamin, plays a crucial role in energy. It affects your mitochondria, your immune system, your muscles, your mood. Deficiency is epidemic, especially after 60, especially if you're not spending much time outdoors. The fatigue from vitamin D deficiency feels like heaviness, muscle weakness, this sense that everything requires too much effort. And magnesium. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including the ones that produce ATP in your mitochondria. It's essential for sleep quality, for muscle function, for stress response. But most older adults are deficient because magnesium levels in food have declined, because medications like proton pump inhibitors deplete magnesium, because stress uses up magnesium faster than you can replace it. The sleep architecture breakdown. Now we need to talk about sleep, because here's a harsh truth. The sleep you're getting at 60 is not the same quality as the sleep you had at 30, even if you're spending the same number of hours in bed. Your sleep architecture, the structure of your sleep cycles, changes with age. When you're young, you spend about 20 to 25% of the night in deep sleep, also called slow-wave sleep or stage 3 sleep. This is the most restorative sleep. This is when your brain clears out waste products, when your body repairs tissue, when growth hormone is released to rebuild muscle and bone. After 60, deep sleep can drop to just 5 to 10% of the night, sometimes even less. You're spending more time in light sleep, which is less restorative. You might be in bed for 8 hours, but you're not getting quality sleep. You're not getting the deep restoration your body needs. REM sleep, where you dream and your brain processes emotions and consolidates memories, also becomes fragmented. You might have shorter REM periods, more interruptions. This affects your mood, your cognitive function, your emotional resilience. And here's the cruel part. You wake up more often. Older adults typically wake up multiple times per night. Sometimes it's because of bladder issues. Sometimes it's because of pain. Sometimes it's because your sleep is just lighter and more easily disrupted. Each time you wake up, you have to fall back asleep, cycle back down through the sleep stages. You might never get into truly restorative deep sleep at all. Sleep apnea becomes more common with age too. This is where your airway partially or completely collapses during sleep, cutting off your oxygen. You might not even know it's happening, but your brain does. It has to partially wake you up to restart your breathing. This can happen dozens or even hundreds of times per night. People with untreated sleep apnea often say they sleep 8 or 9 hours, but wake up feeling like they haven't slept at all, because they haven't, not really. Their brain's been in survival mode all night. And then there's restless leg syndrome, periodic limb movements, nocturia, that need to urinate multiple times at night, all of which become more common after 60 and all of which destroy sleep quality. You end up in this vicious cycle. Poor sleep makes you tired. Being tired makes you less active. Being less active makes your sleep worse. And around you go. The inflammation connection. Here's something that ties a lot of this together. Chronic inflammation. After 60, something called inflammation happens. That's inflammation plus aging. Your body shifts into this state of persistent, low-grade inflammation. Why? Multiple reasons. Your immune system becomes dysregulated with age. You accumulate senescent cells. These are old cells that should die but don't. Instead, they hang around secreting inflammatory chemicals. Your gut barrier becomes more permeable, allowing bacterial fragments into your bloodstream that trigger immune responses. You've accumulated years of oxidative damage, tissue damage, metabolic stress. This chronic inflammation is exhausting, literally. When your immune system is activated, it uses massive amounts of energy. Those inflammatory molecules, things like interleukin-6, TNF-alpha, C-reactive protein, they directly signal your brain to produce fatigue. It's the same mechanism that makes you tired when you have the flu. Your body is trying to make you rest, so your immune system can work. But when the inflammation is chronic, the fatigue becomes chronic too. Inflammation also drives insulin resistance. Your cells stop responding properly to insulin, so glucose can't get into your cells efficiently. You end up with high blood sugar, but your cells are starving for energy. You feel tired after meals. You crave sugar because your body's desperately trying to get energy into your cells, but the insulin resistance blocks it. More sugar just makes the problem worse. And inflammation directly damages your mitochondria. Remember those cellular power plants we talked about? Chronic inflammation makes them less efficient. It creates more oxidative stress, which damages mitochondrial DNA, which leads to more inflammation. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. The muscle loss trap. After 50, you start losing muscle mass at a rate of about 1 to 2% per year. This is called sarcopenia. By 60, if you haven't been actively resistance training, you may have lost 20, 30, even 40% of the muscle mass you had at 30. Why does this matter for energy? Because muscle is metabolically active tissue. Muscle burns calories, even at rest. It's packed with mitochondria. It stores glucose as glycogen for quick energy. When you lose muscle, your metabolic rate drops. You produce less energy. Everything becomes harder. But it's worse than that. Muscle produces something called myokinase. These are signaling molecules that talk to your other organs. They improve insulin sensitivity. They reduce inflammation. They support brain function. They help regulate your immune system. When you lose muscle, you lose all of these benefits. And here's the trap. When you're tired, you move less. When you move less, you lose more muscle. When you lose more muscle, you get more tired. You end up in this downward spiral where fatigue begets inactivity, begets more fatigue. Many people over 60 are in this state where they have just barely enough energy to get through basic daily activities, but they have no reserve, no buffer. One stressful day, one poor night of sleep, one missed meal, and they're completely wiped out. The medication burden. Let's talk about something nobody wants to address. Your medications might be making you tired. By 60, the average person is taking multiple medications: blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds, diabetes meds, pain meds, sleep meds, acid reflux meds. Each one prescribed for a good reason, but many of these medications have fatigue as a side effect. Beta blockers for blood pressure and heart conditions can cause fatigue by slowing your heart rate and reducing cardiac output. Statins for cholesterol can deplete CoQ10, a molecule essential for mitochondrial energy production. Some blood pressure medications affect electrolyte balance, which affects cellular function. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and sleep medications can all cause daytime sedation. Proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux reduce stomach acid, which, as we discussed, impairs absorption of B12, magnesium, calcium, iron. Metformin for diabetes can deplete B12. Diuretics can deplete potassium, magnesium, and other electrolytes. And then there are the medication interactions. When you're on 5, 6, 7 medications, the interactions become complex. One drug affects how another drug is metabolized. Side effects compound. Your liver, which has to process all of these chemicals, becomes overburdened. I'm not saying your medications aren't necessary. Many of them are life-saving. But the cumulative effect of multiple medications on your energy levels is real and often overlooked. What you can actually do. So after hearing all of this, you might be feeling overwhelmed. But here's the good news. You have more control over this than you think. First, get the right testing. Don't accept everything's normal. Ask your doctor to check your ferritin, not just hemoglobin. Check B12 and, if possible, methylmalonic acid and homocysteine. Check vitamin D. Get a complete thyroid panel including free T3 and reverse T3, not just TSH. Check your cortisol with a 4-point salivary test. Check inflammatory markers like CRP. Get a comprehensive metabolic panel. Second, address your sleep with the seriousness it deserves. If you snore, if you wake up gasping, if your partner says you stop breathing, get a sleep study. Sleep apnea is treatable, and treating it can be life-changing. Create a sleep sanctuary. Cool, dark, quiet. Establish a consistent sleep schedule. Limit screens before bed because blue light suppresses melatonin. Consider magnesium before bed. Third, move your body. I know you're tired. I know this feels impossible, but you have to rebuild your muscle mass and you have to support your mitochondria. Start small. Even 10 minutes of walking matters. Add resistance training twice a week, even if it's just bodyweight exercises or light bands. The research is clear. Exercise is one of the most powerful interventions for fatigue in older adults. But you have to do it consistently. Fourth, address inflammation through your diet. Reduce processed foods, sugar, refined carbohydrates. Increase omega-3 fatty acids from fish or supplements. Eat plenty of colorful vegetables for antioxidants. Consider an anti-inflammatory diet like Mediterranean-style eating. Fifth, work with a knowledgeable doctor on optimizing your nutrition and possibly your hormones. If your thyroid is low, even slightly, treatment might help. If your sex hormones are depleted and you're a good candidate, hormone replacement therapy can be transformative for energy. Supplement the deficiencies we talked about: iron, if needed, B12, vitamin D, magnesium, CoQ10, especially if you're on statins. Finally, manage your stress. Chronic stress is an energy vampire, whether it's meditation, therapy, time in nature, connection with loved ones, creative pursuits. Find what helps you decompress and make it non-negotiable. The fatigue you're experiencing is real. It's not in your head. It's not just aging. It's a complex interplay of cellular changes, hormonal shifts, nutrient deficiencies, sleep problems, inflammation, and more. But each of these factors is something you can address. Not overnight, not with a magic pill, but systematically, with the right support, with patience, you can rebuild your energy. You deserve to feel alive again. You deserve to wake up with energy, to have the vitality to do the things you love, to enjoy this stage of your life. Don't accept exhaustion as your new normal. Keep asking questions. Keep advocating for yourself, because your energy is worth fighting for.